what do you as a laureate learn from us, the young researchers?
There's several things that you learn. You learn about what people are interested in, what are the concerns that people have. You also find out what their interests are. It's been nice to talk to people here to find out what projects they're working on. This is particularly interesting to me because I'm a biologist who has a chemistry prize. So I talk to many more of the young investigators, young scientists who are chemists or chemistry oriented. And so I'm learning about areas that I normally don't think about. So that's an interesting exchange. But I also get a chance to hear about people's work that's more related to what I do, and to see their excitement.
Okay. So, and now, what do you learn, the laureates, from each other? If you learn something.
Well, of course, we learn a lot. Again, it's the same thing. Being a biologist and coming to an event like this where primarily it's chemistry laureates, but I actually enjoy listening to the physics laureates. So you learn a little bit about the science, as I think all of us are doing here at this meeting. Everybody usually pursues a very narrow line of experimentation. We don't have as much knowledge of the broad range of what science can be. And so it's nice to hear people that have achieved success and in different areas so they can talk about it. So you obviously hear about people's science and what they're doing. Again, it's also what people are concerned about, how they present themselves, what sort of teaching styles they use, what they emphasize, and what we all emphasize or think about in terms of what we want to convey. It's nice to compare notes. And frankly, they're a nice group of people. It's nice to be able to mix and make friendships.
Okay. So if you would talk in a more general way, what do you learn from the Lindau experience itself? Not so specifically about young research, in general. What do you learn from this experience?
So I think it's a combination of all the things that I've talked already about. I learned about people's interests. I see their excitement in what their research is. I think a large part of what the Lindau experience is for the young investigators is to give them some level of acknowledgement, to say, you've been chosen to come here for this event because you have already accomplished things and you have promise, and we want to acknowledge that promise, and we want to acknowledge that you deserve this. So it's a sense, a pat on the back, and this is the prize for that, to have this wonderful series of days interacting, talking to each other, talking to laureates. I view that Lindau is very good in that regard, is that it's a acknowledgement that doesn't come after one has done a whole series of experiments, but really at the beginning of one's career.
Okay, this is also a general question. What does the learning at Lindau mean for the development of science?
Science always progresses, in my opinion, because of people bringing new approaches and new ideas to things. And if we want it to continue, which I think we all actually do, then we need to encourage people, to show them that this is a rather wonderful adventure to be part of, and it's encouraging people as they begin their careers. That's going to hopefully somewhat sustain them to continue in those careers. We talk a lot about all sorts of barriers, that funding is bad, or there's not as much interest in that. And what you need, I think, or what people need, is just a bit of encouragement to say, no, ignore that. Go on and do what you're really excited about and what you have real talent to do. And I think that's one of the best advantages.
what do you learn from the Lindau experience itself? I see that you get focused in the scientific learning and meeting and all that. I like especially reading your biography. I got very inspired because I'm a very active person and I like to do a lot of things that have nothing to do with science. And I saw that you also did like theater, this literature, Russian literature and the law and everything. You came back to science and all that.
Actually, you've read the wrong biography. This is one of my favorite stories.
Okay,
So the story is this. When I was a college student, I did research in the summer between my third and fourth year. And the experiments never worked. I didn't know what I was doing. I had a mistaken idea that if I wanted to be a real scientist, I should figure these things out and never ask for help. And I didn't. And as a result, I didn't know enough to be able to correct the mistakes. And it was just a miserable time. And at the end of the summer, the person I was nominally working for, and I talked, and he said, you should rest. School's going to start in a couple of weeks. Go home, relax, come back well rested, and try the experiment one more time. If it doesn't work, then we're going to have to stop the project, but just try it one more time. And so I did that. I had a wonderful time resting at home, came back, and did the experiment one more time. And it failed completely. And I was very discouraged. And I decided I should never be a scientist. I wasn't going to be any good at it. I should not do science anymore. So there I was in my last year of college. I had one science course that I had to take, but I also then said, well, I can take all these other courses that I'm interested in. So I took one course in 20th century theater. I took one course on Dostoevsky. I took one course on Russian literature, law. One course on constitutional law. I had a wonderful time, as I had at other years taking interesting non-science courses as well. And then I was interviewed for an article that went into the the Proceedings of the National Academy of Science, a profile. And I was telling the reporter about this, and I said, and so in my last year of college, I took courses in, and I listed the courses, meaning I took one of each. But the sentence got put into the article as courses in this, and somehow that's been picked up, I think, by Wikipedia and other things. And I remember after the Nobel, I was going to a meeting in Genoa, and they had told me beforehand there was going to be a reporter to interview me. And I said, okay, I'd be happy to talk to the person. But when I arrived in Genoa, the person had already written the article, and it had been published in the newspaper. And it was clear that he got his information from the Wikipedia article. And he had interpreted it as the word courses as the Italian word corso, meaning a course of study. So instead of someone who took one course in Dostoevsky, I became an expert in Russian literature. And instead of a person who took one undergraduate course in law, I became a lawyer. And instead of someone who took one course reading 20th century plays, I became an actor. So I was an exceptionally accomplished person, according to this interview. None of it was true, but I found that was interesting. I certainly have interests outside of science, and I do enjoy them. But that Renaissance man that was painted in those articles is a complete false.
In the biography also.
That was a complete falsehood.
Yeah, okay. But you think that doing this alternative
I better look
science,
at that.
Yeah, it is.
I better look at that.
It is in the one that the Lindau hanged on the page. So that's why I thought so. But you think that this, okay, not only these specific courses, short courses, but really going into different things can help you to have a different perspective to science, can help you to think different or to approach things different or enjoy it more, you know, because sometimes you get very focused in science and then you don't appreciate what it is, you know?
I think, you know, everybody's life is different. Everyone's an N of one. So I'm not really sure what the right thing or the wrong thing is. I can just tell you what has happened to me. But I felt going through college that the most important thing that I learned was taking information and playing with it. That exams were never tell me what you've just read. They were always, here's a situation, now apply all the things that you've read, whether it was sociology or something about literature or something. It was, here's a subject, now use your mind to make the connections that would answer this question. Because there is no answer, it's how you put the data together. And I think as scientists, this is a very important thing for us to do, is we are always making connections between things that other people have not made those connections before. And so my training in all of these courses, not any one particular course helped me with this, but it was a perspective that I've found very useful. And I think that this is, I think what I bring to my science is one, enthusiasm about what we're doing, but also every once in a while, this ability to take something from the distant past and what we've done, or something that I'm reading, and draw a connection that leads us in a different direction. And I think we do this all the time as scientists, and I think that was helpful for me. There's a lot of enjoyment of doing many things, and I don't know if they help one's science or keep one away from doing the science, but they sure make life enjoyable. We have families that we love, we have hobbies that we enjoy doing, just like everybody else. Whether that helps or hinders what we do as scientists, I don't think it really makes that much difference. It makes life more enjoyable.
So I will leave it to our last question,
Okay.
that relating this to the question that I did before of what do you learn from the Lindau experience itself, if we look at you probably have discussed with young researchers and also with the laureate about something else that is not science. So that would be like going away from science and maybe getting a different point of view by discussing something else that had nothing to do with science. Did you get that opportunity here?
So I've had several conversations about music. I mean, you heard one of the talks yesterday. There was a nice thing about Tibetan art that was presented. We talk about policy. How is government policy helping or hindering the funding and the realization of science? I mean, so it's not precisely the experiments we're talking about, but other things. And we meet each other as people, and we talk about all the things. You know, people talk about their kids, people talk about their interests outside of science, their experience. You talk about mutual friends. All of these things of interacting with people are frankly fun.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't want to take much time because I get so excited.
Okay, that's great.
Thank you so much.
Good talking with you.
It was really great.